Next we have Máiríde Woods. Máiríde is a member of the board of AT. She's also a writer and a researcher, and we've great culture. I'm surrounded by great culture this morning. She's also a poet, and we're going to hear about Máiríde's experience.
I'm here today as a person who has worked in disability, as a person who's been a researcher, who's worked in the Citizens Information Board in the advocacy section, but my long-term interest in disability comes from the fact that I had a daughter with a disability and that I was involved in the struggle for services for her for a very long time, and I know firsthand how difficult it is to get a personalised service if your disability means that you need something that isn't on the standard menu. And I also know that the uncertainty, even when you have a good service, is one of the problems in disability. You never can be sure that it will continue, that you will have it when you want it, that it will be there next year, that somebody in government or in the HSE won't say, well, this person doesn't really need that, they could do without it. And that sort of uncertainty, I think, is one of the things that is, very damaging for people with disabilities, even though things have improved considerably since, I first came into this area in I think it was the middle 70s. I'm here today, though, because I'm a member of the board, and this is my third experience of board membership. And the first time I went on a board, I was very raw and inexperienced, and I was very uncertain about my role. And in those days, you just went in and everybody was very nice to you, and they started talking away about whatever it was, and you kind of listened to them, and you didn't really know what you were meant to do. But I suppose it was one of those cases where you learn by experience. And I felt when I was thinking about it for this conference that it's one of the things that people with disabilities themselves have to do. You have to go on the board. You have to understand, what all this stuff about money is about. You have to understand what it is that you need and how you can put it across to the people who have the power to give you what you want or not give you what you want in a way that makes your case the strongest possible. And I think this is what, you have to go through. They asked me to say something about equality, and I'm conscious today that one of my old mates from Equality Studies is here, and a lot of what I say would have much to do with what Kathleen Lynch, the other Kathleen Lynch, not the one in government, and John Baker would have said. I suppose, everybody thinks that they're in favour of equality. If I asked here, you'd all put up your hands and you'd say, oh yeah, we're for equality. But what does equality mean? You need to think about it for a while. Does it mean the same treatment? And in some cases it does, even for people with disabilities. Like, if you've got to ramp up to the voting station, there's no reason why you shouldn't go in and vote like anyone else if you can understand, the difference between the candidates. And sometimes that's not just a problem for those who are intellectually disabled, other people as well. But, sometimes the same treatment is no good. And the little picture up there is supposed to be the fox and the stork. And, the fox invited the stork to dinner and served the meal on a plate, and of course he scoffed it all down, and the stork barely got a nibble. And the stork was a clever fellow, though. He invited him back and he served the meal in a long sort of a jug, and this time it was the fox that didn't get anything. So you see that, similar, if you treat people the same, you don't actually always end up with the same results. It's important that people are given the same opportunities by giving something a bit extra where that's what they need in order to have equality of participation. Now, some people will go for equality of outcome, but that's quite difficult to manage. I suppose the principles of dignity, respect, and as much independence as you can are the things that you need. Some people with disabilities need care packages to lead the life that most of us take for granted, and there's no reason why they shouldn't manage the money themselves other than employing a care provider. But that's a scary step if you've always lived in, under other people's financial control anyway. How do you jump off the residential service? And this is what AT is about. It's helping you to jump off into independence and doing your own thing. Now, I suppose the board person, like me, why am I on the board? I'm probably on it because I'm, now as old as the people, whom I was scared of on my first board. And, you have to think, what do you do on a board? I've got a better sense now of what it's about. You need to be supportive of the ideas of the organisation. It's no use having people who really think that everybody should go back to living in the Cheshire home. That's no use for AT. But you need the board needs, as well as a supportive person, they need a variety of members who have different expertise and can give a sense of how the wider world will look at you. Because sometimes when you're stuck in your own, silo, I think is the word they use now, you forget how you appear to the outside world, and that's important too. And you do need accountants to keep you on the financial straight and narrow and read all those little Excel files with the tiny writing. Thank you, Emma. And the odd lawyer to keep you off the legal rocks. And I think board members shouldn't be there forever, because you get kind of stale and you get sort of socialised into the ideas of the group. You also have to wear your human being disguise, very important for everybody to wear their human being disguise. We're there, I suppose, a board to encourage and restrain, to bring a less partisan view, to ensure that the enthusiasts don't burn themselves out. And this is very important in AT, because we've got lots and lots of really enthusiastic people, and nor discouraged when you fall into the odd doldrum. And I suppose it's about reminding people of all the accounts, sadly, and the priorities, and occasionally representing outside. And you have a duty to keep yourself informed. I mentioned there on the thing that you read a lot of reports, and you have to read a lot of reports. One of the qualities that you need as a board member is to be able to read fast. But you also need to be really, very much in favour of the organisation's work, and to kind of be able to do perhaps more than you would on a regular board, because when you're an innovative and new organisation, the board member's role is stronger. I suppose, AT is looking for new ways of working, and it's trying out support for independent living. And Hubert told us very well, people are proving their competence by enabling and providing peer support to people with disabilities. And I think the peer support thing is one of the most important things about AT, because people with disabilities are often being told by people who haven't disabilities about what they should do. But when you're told by somebody who has something the same sort of disability as yourself, that this can be done, that you can do it, that this person has done it, this is more powerful than anything else. And AT is breaking free of that old model of service provision, but it also needs to connect respectfully with all the other people outside disability, with funders, with circles of support. And circles of support are enormously important, because you can't do everything on your own. Independence doesn't mean kind of, you against the world. And it's also the big thing about AT, I think, is it provides role models. And I think the little thing up there, role models for people with disabilities is very important. And it establishes people with disabilities as active participants in, planning services. If you've stretched your own budget to cover the priorities that you have decided on, then you have to be taken seriously at the, policy level. And I suppose the other thing then is you need to recognise talents rather than shortcomings, always seeing, what the person can do rather than the sort of the outward sign of the disability. I suppose all this support for independent living has been a learning experience for us all, and we have quite a small number of people, but the innovative influence of those 25 people managing their own services and what they've found out shows what an active role people with disabilities can take. And this will influence the way services are provided, not just by our AT, but by other people. When you put something new into the mix changes, and showing is so much more powerful than telling. Independent living requires true sharing of responsibility, and that's kind of important. I've read an awful lot of reports in my time about, all these fine things, independence, equality, empowerment, community participation, etc., etc. This is a support service for one segment of the disability community, which is putting these ideas into practice. We need for change commitment, trust and hard work. And not just from the disabled person but from who wants to manage the funding, but from the HSE who is the funder. And you need a bit of certainty that your service is going to continue for the next few years. You don't need to be always worrying about next year's budget. And good disability services cost money. When you're looking at the services for people who are wheelchair users, who require, personal assistance every day, there's no really cheap way of doing it. And you have to provide the money in order to have good services. There are different ways of providing good services, but they can't be done cheaply, and that would be my fear about value for money, that the value for money side rather than the quality would take over. Change requires cooperation and a spectrum of differently managed and differently set up services, because one size, as we're so fond of saying, doesn't fit everyone. So I'd just like to say thank you for listening to me and asking you all to walk the walk as well as talking the talk. Okay?
Thank you very much. Thanks, Máiríde.